I'ma just say that after getting 4 Marvel or DC related fights within 6 episodes, Boba Fett better not be fighting Star-Lord. Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and welcome back to another one of my Death Battle prediction videos. And next time on Death Battle, after Omni-Man vs Homelander, we've got Magneto from Marvel versus Tetsuo from Akira. Now, this was the Tetsuo fight that I thought was going to happen after he was revealed at the end of Season 8, alongside Boba Fett and Vegeta and some other characters. But I will say that I am a little disappointed that we're getting another Marvel or DC related fight so quickly after the last 3. Hell, technically even Omni-Man vs Homelander falls into that comic superhero genre, which means that the only fight so far this season that doesn't include comic superheroes is Tanjiro vs Jonathan Joestar, and the only character so far that we've gotten this season that's not either comic superhero related or anime related is Jinx. And again, we're 6 episodes in already, so while I do appreciate that Death Battle is using a lot of new franchises individually, because they did say that was something they were going to do, and I do appreciate that, it still feels kind of repetitive so far. And considering that they're not spacing these episodes out, it does make me a little worried that we might be getting even more repetition later down the line. But you know what, we'll save that for when it comes, we'll just have to see what happens. Let's just focus on what's happening right now. It's Magneto versus Tetsuo. Again, it was the fight I expected, and hopefully this episode turns out to be a lot of fun. So let's start with Magneto, since Death Battle has already talked a little bit about him and the X-Men and, Marvel in general. So Magneto is now considered to be an Omega level mutant, which means that he should be capable of wiping out all life on Earth with his power at least, and just in general have like a planet-wide range with his power, again, at bare minimum. The definition of Omega level has kind of fluctuated over the years, but these are still like the most conservative definitions that we can use. And Death Battle has also already used a couple Omega level mutants before, such as Storm and Cable, and we already know that their power can approach, or even in some cases extend past planet level. And Magneto has taken on and beaten many of those kinds of characters, multiple times in the comics. We also know that Magneto can manipulate an entire planet's magnetic field all on his own, and even in Batman vs. Iron Man, it was stated that Magneto could muster enough force to hit with the force of a star. And if that sounds ridiculous to you, well, Magneto has also fought Thor and other similar characters, and we know how powerful Thor is from like 2 Death Battles ago. We also know that Magneto can match or surpass the speed of many of the X-Men, and many of them have dodged light speed lasers on multiple occasions, and Magneto being able to keep up with characters like Iron Man and Thor and Doctor Doom would definitely put him well beyond light speed anyway. And Magneto can use his power of manipulating all forms of magnetism at the subatomic level to move or control metal even from great distances across the galaxy. He can change a metal's fundamental makeup. He can generate force fields that are able to hold back attacks from the Phoenix Force, at least briefly. He can generate EMPs, he can generate electricity, he can fly, and he even has telepathic resistances, which is aided by his helmet. He can also somewhat control non-magnetic materials by using naturally occurring metals within, or even just his own electromagnetic field, which can include humans messing up their internal functions to a degree. There's more, of course, but those are like the main ones. Now, Tetsuo, on the other hand, is kind of confusing to look at just based on how much he's changed over the course of the story. Like, he used to be able to use his powers to bring down buildings and create storms that spread across a city, for example, but then later he was able to blow a hole through the moon with his power, and his power was described as being too much for the Earth to contain, at least when combined with Akira's power. But this description and other descriptions in Akira kind of suffer from the fact that these statements don't have actual showcases to back them up. For instance, it was feared that Akira's power would be enough to destroy the world, and Tetsuo could theoretically scale to that, but we don't actually see Akira do it, just for example. And then on top of that, Tetsuo later mutated and lost control of his powers, and his powers presumably increased, but we don't actually physically see by how much. However, I do believe that power increase was supposed to be similar to Akira's power when Akira took Tetsuo to the new universe and created a new Big Bang or whatever. It was like both of them got godly power, but only Akira was actually able to use it properly. I might be getting a couple of details wrong. Again, though, even if Tetsuo was that strong at that point, he wasn't actually able to control that power. But then when he made his way to the new universe, he like ascended and got control over that power, or maybe even got even more power. Again, though, it's not incredibly well defined. So yeah, anything universal for Tetsuo, there is definitely like a string you can pull on for that, but anything universal for Tetsuo doesn't feel incredibly definitive, and I wouldn't be surprised if Death Battle kind of disregards that stuff, especially since it was more like end of the story stuff rather than like a ton of overarching stuff. You know, I do think there are enough statements about like destroying the planet that saying that Tetsuo is around planet level is fair enough, but anything, you know, above that I would definitely say is 100% not definitive or not definite. But again, there is a string you can pull on for that if you really want to. And just going over speed really quick, Tetsuo should be around the relativistic range through laser dodging and flying to the moon in a short time frame. And when it comes to his abilities, Tetsuo is an Esper, which means he's got a lot of psychic and psionic abilities and also other abilities on top of that. Like he's got telekinesis, he can create force fields, he's got teleportation, mind reading, technopathy as well, light manipulation, energy manipulation, a healing factor or at least accelerated healing, and you know, a bunch of other psychic abilities that kind of fall within that same vein. So yeah, he's got a lot of power and a lot of versatility on his side. So when comparing everything like Magneto and Tetsuo's stats and abilities side by side, it honestly seems pretty clear cut to me, which once again seems partially due to the fact that one of these characters is from comics and the other character is not from comics, which has gotten annoying to me at this point, but whatever, there's not really much we can do about that. But yeah, Tetsuo might have more control over non-magnetic materials, and they both have some overlapping abilities like light manipulation and being able to control the earth and each other to an extent with their powers, but Magneto just seems to have more control and strength behind all of his abilities and has better stats to go with it. He's much faster than Tetsuo through scaling, his force fields have withstood way crazier things, he has better resistances to Tetsuo's abilities than the other way around, including Tetsuo's telepathy, and Magneto can exert so much magnetic force behind all of his attacks that I don't really see Tetsuo's durability, healing factor, or shields holding up to it for long. It's just way outside the realm of what Tetsuo has actually withstood before. Tetsuo blowing a hole through the moon and potentially destroying a planet is great and all, don't get me wrong, but a lot of these feats and stats feel like they could equal Magneto when Magneto is being lowballed. But realistically, Magneto should scale much higher and could perform better feats, such as hitting with the force of a star or fighting characters even beyond star level. And yeah, you know, even if we want to include Tetsuo being even more powerful than he is normally, like the potential universal stuff, even if we do want to look into that, you know, Magneto still has potential scaling that puts him even higher with, in my opinion, less leniency required, such as him being able to fight Thor and other similar characters. Not to mention his force fields have survived well greater than that anyway, you know, like the Phoenix Force. So with so much defense, power, and control at his side, the only thing I could really see screwing up the fight for Magneto is his arrogance, or him overexerting himself by using too much power too quickly. But I'd still want to say that Magneto is the smarter and calmer tactician out of the two, and you know, Magneto is he still has so much power in this fight that I don't see him getting to the point where he overexerts himself, at least not more times than not. This whole fight really feels like another Korra versus Storm to me, and that one definitely wasn't that hard to predict. So because of the fact that we've used so many comic and anime characters already, and because of how one-sided this feels, I can't say that I'm the most excited for this episode. You know, I still think these characters are really cool. You know, Magneto is an amazing villain, and Akira in general I think has some really cool messaging in it. But cool characters don't always make for the most interesting battles, in my opinion. If you're really excited for this episode, then that's great, that's really awesome. You know, it's just not at the top of my list personally, although I'm sure I'll still enjoy the episode. But yeah, just to recap, I personally think that Magneto is going to win this fight. I think he just has better stats overall and has better abilities and resistances in this fight. But I want to hear what you guys have to say. Who do you think is going to win? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you could too. That would be amazing. But no matter what you guys do, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, that's it for me. I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.